everyone, and welcome to Two Player Quest. Today we're going to be reviewing Dungeons of Doria. Dungeons of Doria is a cooperative dungeon delver / loot crawler, as they like to call it themselves. In it, you play a group of adventurers who is seeking out gold, glory, and of course, loot. But you need to be aware of the monsters and the traps that you will find in the meantime. Let's dive in. Dungeons of Doria is a game for 1 to 6 players, which plays in about 2 to 4 hours, which is a bit on the shorter side if we look at the games that we have played thus far. Those are for single scenarios. Even then, the single scenarios, I would say, take 3 to 4 hours. It also depends on the amount of players you're with, of course, so those are definitely more guidelines than what we've actually noticed how long it's going to take. Difficulty-wise, it's at a 3.38, meaning it's a medium difficulty game, but the good thing is it is a co-op. So if one person's having a bit more difficulty with some rules, you always have someone else that can help. When it comes to luck, there is certainly some luck involved. Well, quite a bit actually. One part is the cards, so that'd be the loot cards and the monster cards. But one of the good things about that is you're either all lucky or you're all unlucky. And the other part is dice rolls. If you know someone's very good at dice rolls, you know how luck can sometimes go both ways. So I would say yes, it is quite a luck-based game, but as previously stated, at least the luck is cooperative. This is what a game of Dungeons of Doria might look like after a few rounds. As you can see, we have already opened a few of the doors and some extra tiles on the right-hand side. And there are some monsters on the board. Every round consists of 9 phases. Phase A moves the round marker. Phase B is when you get new equipment in the shop supply, which is there on the left-hand side. We have already done this now. Phase C is where you roll for initiative. So you take your dice, you roll them. In this case, that's an 8 and a 0. A 0 is a 10, so you roll another dice. So this brings you to 24, plus the amount of IP you have on your character sheet. So mine would be 24 plus 6, making it 30. So I put my character at 30 action points. Then comes phase D, the action phase. This is the phase in which you basically do the main part of the game. You combat, you move, you find new rooms, you loot treasures. That is all done in phase D. On the aid cards and on the cards of abilities that you have, it will tell you how much AP something costs. And then you spend that amount of AP. For example, looting would cost you 1 AP to loot quickly, or 5 AP to loot slowly but safely. You keep using up your AP until everyone has used all their AP, and you go from top to bottom. So if the second player were on 18, the first player would do action points until they reached the 17, for example, and then it's the other players or other characters' turn to go. The monsters have a specific number in which they go. It states on the monster cards there. That is what this other token is for, the blue one, to show you that the monsters are having their turns at that point. Once the action phase is done, when all characters and monsters are at 0 AP, that's when you continue on to phase E, which is the poison phase. If you have gained poison, this is when that takes effect. Then phase F for special actions. Phase G moves the doom counter a certain amount of steps depending on what you have done this round. That could be usually somewhere between 1 and 3, and you would look at the effects of the doom counter if there were any. Phase H is level up. If you gain enough points to do a level up that round, then this is where you would do that. Then come phase I, which is buying and removing supplies from the shop. This is one of the ways to gain new items, or do some traps that you think you might be able to handle. The scenario will tell you when the game ends. It all depends on the scenario and what the goal was of said scenario. Learning how to play Doria, as long as there is someone who already knows how to play this game, can be done quite quickly. I would say give it 15 minutes for people to start to understand the basics, maybe less if they're quite experienced board gamers. And then you can just get going and come to things when you come to them. For example, combat. Usually in the first room there won't be combat immediately. So you can get started on the loot mechanics, you can get started on movement and whatnot, and then get to combat once a monster appears. I would suggest Dungeons of Doria to people who like dungeon delvers, cooperative board games, things like D&D for example, but who want to play it for the mechanics and not necessarily for the narration, as the narration in this game is not very much. We, for example, like playing D&D, we just don't necessarily like the narration part. We like the mechanics, the combat mechanics, and they are very similar to this game. So, if you think D&D is a bit too narrative, or you just really like the combat part of D&D, then this is a game I would suggest. We really quite like Dungeons of Doria. One of the main things we like is the customization. So the making of your own character. We really love when you're basically busy with the setup, you're making your own character, you're thinking, oh, what do I want? You look at the loot cards, or basically the resources you have, and think, oh, I could do this, or I could do that. It's something that we really enjoy about this game, and then seeing that sort of character slightly coming to life when you're busy playing the game to see what works and what doesn't. Really, really enjoy that. Along with the variety that this game brings. There's so many varieties of monsters. The loot cards are so different. There are tons of traps that you basically don't really know what's going to happen. We always play this game with 4 characters, so 2 characters each, because that's just something that we enjoy doing. The combat system does give you high highs and low lows. If you're rolling really well, you really do feel like, yeah, and then if you roll not too well, you're really quite slightly annoyed. But that's just something that keeps us engaged in this game, and it's something that we really like. The action system, the action points is something that it's different. Again, if you roll terribly, it's not that nice, but it does make it an interesting dynamic, and every round is different because you don't know exactly how many action points you're going to have or who's going to go when, and sometimes it is just waiting on someone, or, oh, I'm going to quickly do this because it's not your turn yet. So it is the variety, the customization, and frankly the combat system that we enjoy in this game. This game plays very well with more people. That is very traditional for a co-op. It's hard for a co-op to not play too well with more people. It's not the kind of co-op like Pandemic, for example, in which one player can basically decide what everyone should do and believes they have the best idea and people should just listen to them. There's way too much customization, different items to keep track of it all, which is something we very much like about this game. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching our review of Dungeons of Doria. This video was requested by one of my subscribers after seeing that I had bought this game at Spiel. If you have any suggestions, feedback, comments, or other games you think we should review, please put them in the comments below, and look forward to seeing you next time on 2 Player Quest.